And we're on.
All right.
Okay.
Live.
We're live. Who wants to start?
You can.
Alright, we're gonna go. Yeah.
Okay.
We're group 7. My name is Sam.
I'm Haley. I'm Mickey.
I'm Colin.
I'm Mitchell.
I'm Mica. I'm Haley.
We're gonna be talking about whether the internet is a basic human right. We're kind of just gonna open forum this. So, to start us off, I don't think it is because you don't need the internet to survive, and there's millions of people in the world who survive without the internet, or even knowing it exists.
I'm in agreement with that. I think that first and foremost, we need to provide the basics like food, water, shelter before we have internet, because it's not something that we need to live off of.
I agree with that also. I think the internet is a privilege, and I think there's more important aspects in life that we need to focus on before we focus on technology being a human right of ours.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think in the future though, when the internet switches to the IPv6, where pretty much everything is digital and is controlled by your phone or your computer, we should rethink like the internet being used for everyone.
I also agree with that, and I think in the future the internet can be a human right, but there might be different levels of it, so people can pay for like a faster speed or higher internet capabilities.
Alright, I disagree. I do think the internet is a basic human right, especially in today's fast-paced, digital, technology-driven society. Access to information and communication and all the other aspects that the internet brings in is essentially, it is essential for success in the modern world, especially in the developed world, perhaps in areas where you can still subsistence farm and get by without big corporations and business and education, but in the developed world I do think it's a necessity.
I agree in the developed world, but where you were going with this, like in the places that are underdeveloped, such as like some places in Africa that don't even have food, I think they need to get to a point to where they can have some kind of like basic economic system before they have internet. And, I mean, they don't even know the basics of the economics, so how could they use the internet without knowing that stuff?
Well, couldn't the internet provide them the information about running an economy, about finance?
Eventually, but without knowing, I mean, they don't have general schooling, they don't have general language. I mean, like when they tried to hand out those laptops for free and they weren't in English, that caused a lot of problems, and I think you have to have, there's a lot of language barriers to that too.
Yeah, I think you have to be educated too if you want to use the internet as a tool.
And to understand economics, that's something we're learning in college, right? That's a really high education that you need to have. So first we need to give them really basic education before we teach them economics.
Yeah, it really does depend on like what country you live in, because if like here, we would not be able to be successful without the internet, because that's what people use for jobs, for housing, for anything that's a necessity for them. But like in Africa,
wouldn't that go towards being a good human?
I
If
mean,
it works here so well.
I do think that eventually it will probably be a human right, but I think like Mica and Haley said, that like you have to have education and like the basis of education to have internet and like a third.
And I totally agree with that. I just don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't think you have to have rights to water, health, and food and not have rights to internet. It's not saying that you're prioritizing internet over providing rights to, people in Africa who don't have clean water. It's not saying, you know what, you might not have clean water, but guess what, we're gonna give you internet. It's saying, we believe in clean water and stuff, but we also believe that you should have access to all this information and help set up an infrastructure to create that, because I think the internet can be a great tool to employ underprivileged. I think it can work as a resource to educate people more quickly and more effectively. I just think that has to be fleshed out more. I think you can learn from like that computer mistake, because people couldn't use it and just take, what you, like, change the languages, do something better than that. But I don't think you have to, give up one to have the other. I think they can all just be human rights, and I think as we move forward, like, having internet everywhere will just make everybody more competitive, and that's what we do here. Like, we encourage practices that are, like, competitive to businesses, so you have the potential to rise up, and it's like, we want that for all of the world.
Yeah, and I think the internet, like you said, it goes along with other basic human rights. Like, the information that the internet can provide could lead to education about cleaning water, about access to clean water, about preventing malaria, about other like serious life and death issues. Whereas the internet itself isn't responsible, but the information that it provides could actually be life changing.
And I agree, but what you're saying, like, or give a man a fish, he's fed for a day, teach him the fish, he's fed for life. But I think if I was in that position, I would feel wronged if someone just gave me internet instead of, I'm just talking about, the poorest of the poor and how they need food and water. But people that have at least some food and some water, then I agree. I think that's the next step, is teaching them the internet so that they can do more with their lives and have more business structure.
Well, that's what, I don't think you have to have one without having the other. You don't have to choose, like, the very poorest of the poor, you can give them internet and you can give them food. It doesn't have to be internet and no food.
Yeah,
I think you might run into, Haley, you mentioned earlier maybe having people pay for perhaps better internet.
Right.
And when you talk about trying to give everybody internet and the best internet possible, you can run into trouble where you're trying to maybe let the government or the big companies who have more money pay for better access, and next thing you know, if you don't have the money to pay for that access,
Wasn't that
you're
net
on the
neutrality?
internet. But yeah, with net neutrality, you could have the internet, but maybe it's so slow that you don't really, it takes you forever to load one web page, and next thing you know, you're limited. You don't really have the basic right of the internet.
Yeah, it's kind of like the new Facebook internet, how they're limiting the scope of what you actually see, which is discrimination.
Lots of problems. But anyway, that's 7 minutes.
Okay, well, good talk, guys.
Oh, really?
I don't need to clap.